capacity, as well as in your family circle, and indeed in the lives of all those people whom you come across, because our business is something we carry with us wherever we go, trying to be a positive change in people's lives. So if you might have noticed with your invite for today's training, I'm going to speak about joint health. And of course, our joints are very important. We speak about them maybe in other sessions. But today, I thought I would specifically speak about our joints because sometimes we tend to overlook them. We don't talk about them much. But they are a very important reason why we are able to move. So if you can think about it, our ancestors had to move for very long periods every day. They would be going hunting for food, searching and gathering for food. They would be walking long distances, either for the purpose of socializing, maybe escaping from danger, and so on, which tells us that we are actually built to move. And the modern habit of sitting for prolonged periods every day is actually not the way we are supposed to be. And for that reason, we have to be cautious about incorporating movement in our day-to-day life. So our joints, actually, if we take good care of them, and we are fortunate maybe not to have serious injuries or serious illness, can keep us moving for our entire lifetime. And I think many of us have come across older people who are still very flexible and able to and quite agile. And this tells us that actually our joints are supposed to be to have the longevity of our entire lives. Unfortunately, we find more and more that many of us will struggle, especially in the later years, sometimes even in the middle years, with joint problems and struggling to move. So we have become aware over time because a lot of work has gone into creating awareness that we need cardiovascular exercise, we need to build muscles and maintain our musculature as the years go by because it is very important for our health. However, what we sometimes are not so aware of is the importance of maintaining flexibility in our joints and the full range of motion which our joints are supposed to have. This is also an important part of our activities because it safeguards our ability to move, the ability to do our life. So when you think about the importance of exercise, the importance of cardiovascular exercises for the health of our heart, when we think about maintaining good muscle to keep our bodily strength, we should not forget our joints because all of this, the movement of our skeleton is only possible because we have joints. So as usual, let me look a little first at the lifestyle side of things. So one of the greatest hazards to our health and our longevity is, as I've said before, habitual prolonged sitting. So if we sit for long periods daily or frequently, then it will have a detrimental effect on our health, our movement, and even our longevity. And what contributes to this new style of prolonged sitting or sedentary lifestyle? One of the reasons is that an increasing number of jobs and an increasing number of people can do most of their daily work while seated. So if you think about years ago, let's say when I was still a child, a lot of what we needed to do required a lot of movement. You needed to go out and fetch water from the river. You needed to go to the forest to fetch firewood. You needed to spend a day maybe tilling the land. You needed to maybe chase your chicken, kill it, and cook it, and so on. So a lot of movement was involved in just day-to-day life. But more and more now we find that we can do a lot from sitting. If you can imagine that you and I right now, we are simply sitting, staring at a screen, and I'm speaking into a screen, and we are doing our work in that way. In fact, if even for those older distributors, you can think about how much the neolife business has changed. There was a time that the opportunity of doing so much just using our phones and our laptops and iPads and so on was not so great. We could not do so much with them. But now we find more and more we get our orders just by clicking a few buttons here and there. We get deliveries and so on. So that is one of the reasons why prolonged sitting has become a part of our life. We can do a lot without having to get up and move around. Then another reason is that we have an easy and efficient transport system in many places, of course, not in all places. And here on our continent, we know that there are places where struggle, but in many places, transport is easy and efficient, which reduces the need to walk for long distances. And we are able to get from place to place by airplanes. We can get from place to place by cars and by trains. All this means that those long distance movements are no longer really a part of our lives. In fact, most of the time, if we are walking for long periods, it will probably be for recreation, like those who go on hikes, let's say those who jog and so on. Of course, we also still have many people on our continent who have got to walk long distances to go to work, to go to school, and so on. So it is a mixed bag, but as you can see, the advent of transport has changed the need for walking long distances. Then the other reason I wanted to mention is, of course, schooling has played a role in making sitting part of our lives, because from the moment a child is admitted in school, they are encouraged to sit still and pay attention. And this goes on for all the years when they'll be at school. During the class, the teaching hours, the time they are sitting in class, they would be sitting and the teacher will probably not be amused if a child keeps on getting up and moving around, except maybe during the short breaks that they're given in the course of the day, which means that we grow up through school being encouraged to sit still and pay attention and do our work, so that we actually see it as a good thing to do. Then it comes as a surprise that now, as we grow older, that the same sitting still and paying attention and doing our work can actually be a source of health problems for us. But that is the way it is. So we need to think about how to mitigate against this necessity of sitting for long periods. And one of the things that I think can be easily incorporated to help us against this is walking. Walking is an excellent movement or exercise which does not have a very high impact on our joints and can be done at all stages of our life. So young children can walk, older people can walk, and even many old people can walk, which means that if we take it as one of our exercises, we can actually do it for the majority of our lives. And it can be something that we can incorporate into our daily activities, maybe during lunch hour. If we work in a sedentary job, we can take time during our lunch hour to move around. And let's say if possible, we can also run some errands on foot where possible. We can maybe park a little far away from where we are going so that we get an opportunity to walk to and from the car. And whenever it is convenient, we can opt for using stairs instead of elevators. So where possible, we should also include flexibility exercises. There are specialized exercises that are targeted towards our flexibility. Many of us maybe have heard of yoga or Pilates, which help us to exercise but emphasize flexibility and stretching. We have things like Tai Chi and calisthenics, which also we should incorporate in our exercise plans, with the idea that they give us the opportunity to extend our joints and the ability of our joints to move through the full range. Because just to explain a little bit, every joint has got a range over which it can move. And if we don't do exercises to keep on developing this and maintaining it, we may find that our joints become stiffer and stiffer, and the range of movement becomes narrower and narrower. And this we can usually notice when you look at little children, how flexible they are and how they are able to contort themselves into all kinds of shapes and movements. Whereas as you get to around my age, find that it is much more difficult to do some of those things, but that can be mitigated against by doing exercises that maintain at least the majority of our range of movement. We may lose some of the range, but we should try to maintain the majority of it. So what works against us in our joint health? So what are some of the causes of joint problems? Of course, there are obvious things like injuries. Maybe something happens to us and we are injured, and this can affect our joints and make it difficult for us to use that joint or to move it as comfortably as before the injury. But in addition to that, over time, we have wear and tear, where we find that our joints can get worn out, and with time, they may become painful or inflamed and unable to move as freely and as extensively as when we had not lived for a certain period of time because we were still younger, or we had not had some of the issues, dietary issues, illnesses that can lead to this problem. Another cause for joint problems is inflammation. So inflammation is something we often talk about that happens in our bodies. There is a type of inflammation that is part of healing. For example, if something hits us or if we hurt ourselves in some way, the first thing we notice is that the place is going to swell and become a bit hot. That is inflammation. But that kind of inflammation is part of healing, is the first step our body takes to heal the injury. However, there is another kind of inflammation that is called systemic inflammation that is throughout our body. And when it is chronic, then it means that it's not a first step to anything. It becomes like the norm of our body. And that can be due to illness. For example, things like arthritis can cause inflammation in a joint. It can also be due to a diet, and also autoimmune illnesses are associated with prolonged inflammation. So inflammation can be another cause of joint problems. Then a fourth one is excessive body weight, which puts a strain on our joints. And if you think of some of our weight-bearing joints, so our weight-bearing joints will particularly be affected by this, because the heavier we are, the more the weight that those joints have to carry. I'll mention this just now again in a short while. Then the last thing I wanted to mention, and of course it's not that these are not the only ones, but the few I wanted to mention, some kinds of medication can also speed up the wearing out of our joints. So if we are on certain kinds of medication for prolonged periods, they can also contribute to joint problems. So when you're taking some of this medication, you can look at the side effects. And if you see that one of them is joint or cartilage problems, you might want to reconsider maybe to change to a different type, or to not use them if possible for prolonged periods. Then how do activities benefit our joints? It is well established that gentle exercise after meals will help in improving our digestion as well as our metabolism, that is our energy producing activity. Good digestion and good metabolism will be useful in maintaining body weight, which we have already seen it is important to maintain a healthy body weight, because if we do not maintain a healthy weight and we become overweight or obese, what happens is that some of our joints, the weight-bearing joints, for example, our hips, our knees, and our ankles are going to start suffering because of being pressed down by a high weight. So if you can imagine how small our ankle is, our ankles are, and then if we put on, let's say, 20 or 30 kilograms, then it means that that very small joint still has to carry that much larger weight, which means that we'll start noticing imbalances, swellings and pains and difficulties in moving the joints. So yet another reason for us to keep on trying to maintain a healthy body weight by all the lifestyle choices we are always talking about, so that we do not overstrain our hips, our knees, and ankles, amongst other joints. Then exercise also helps to maintain physical strength because, of course, even as years are passing by, we need to maintain the physical strength that we will use for going about our day-to-day business. Exercise also helps in maintaining bone density and prevents joint problems joint problems that are caused by weak or imbalanced muscles. Just to mention that most of our muscles work in pairs. So if you think about something like the arm, we have muscles at the front of our arms and at the back of our arms. They work together in opposites. So one set of muscles will fold the arm or bend the arm. The other set is going to straighten the arm. So that means that these muscles have to be balanced so that they work well together. When either one set is too weak or too much stronger than the other, what will happen is that there will be a muscle imbalance, and such an imbalance actually is one of the causes of joint problems. Then the other thing is that activity and exercise helps to improve circulation everywhere, and that includes within our joints. This means that by being active, the fluids that lubricate our joints and bring nourishment to them is going to be kept going. So by being active, we are going to lubricate and nourish our joints through the movement itself. This will help in maintaining the flexibility of the joint as well as repairing and healing it. And you will notice maybe if you've ever had your hand or leg in a plaster, that if it is kept in a straight position where you are not able to move it, when you start moving it, you notice that the muscles are becoming smaller, the bone might become a little bit weaker, and the joint might be stiffer. So movement is actually very useful for the health of the joints themselves. Also, we notice as we grow older, I think I've already mentioned this, we can also lose some of our natural flexibility and become stiffer. And for that reason, even as the years are passing, we should not neglect exercises that help us to maintain our. Other exercises such as skipping rope and trampoline jumping are important for maintaining our balance. So again, as time passes, we may notice that our sense of balance is not very good, and we should have exercises that help to sustain those, as well as coordination and so on, because these can deteriorate as we grow older. And some of the injuries we incur as older people is because our sense of balance starts being poorer, and we can easily fall and get some serious injuries. So this will reduce, doing some of these exercises will reduce loss of balance and will also help us to avoid falling and injuring ourselves. Then now let us look at our Neolife supplements and the important role that they play in joint health. So I just will mention three. One of the ways is by protecting joints from wear and tear. So some of the supplements are protective because they protect the joints from that wear and tear that takes place over time. Because remember, our joints are always working in one way or another when we are moving. Then another way is that our supplements help to reduce instances of injury. So we can use the supplements in building a stronger skeleton, which is going to be better at avoiding injuries. And of course, this is not totally, some injuries are of course accidental, some are as a result of weaknesses of different type. And then the third one is that our supplements also provide us with the nutrients that we need to repair the injuries themselves when they occur. Because as we know, we are not always able to avoid injuries, but when they do occur, our bodies would need certain of the supplements and dietary nutrients to help in repairing those injuries. So the supplements that I will recommend are a number of them. Again, it does not mean that we have to take all of the 7 that I'm going to mention, but we can choose some of them as part of our regular supplementation. But however, in situations where we are specifically struggling with joint problems, we might need to take the majority of them. Or if we are getting on in years and we are noticing a certain shakiness in our skeleton. So the first is Neolife Shake, which provides us with a full range of amino acids. These amino acids will help for maintaining and the self-repair of our joints and other tissues, of course. So we are always repairing the tissues in our bodies because they keep on breaking down and dying off. And this is the same with our joints. So the tissues that make up a joint are things like cartilage, ligaments, and tendons. All of these are made from combinations of different nutrients, of which a majority is actually made from amino acids, so protein type of tissues. Then we also have omega-3 salmon oil, one of our superstar supplements. This one will counteract inflammatory response in our bodies. And the responses can be due to injuries. It can be due to certain things in our diet that is actually inflaming our system, or it can also be due to illness. So omega-3 salmon oil, very, very helpful in resolving inflammation. And we know from our previous sessions that there are many, many lifestyle-related illnesses that are driven by this inflammation. So this is one that we should use as part of our daily supplementation because it will help us in very many different aspects of our health. Then the third one I would like to add there is CalMag. I can also put there multimineral because we do know that multimineral is a broad range of mineral supplements. So these mineral supplements will provide us with the material that we need for building bone, teeth, and blood, and other types of tissues. So these ones are also very important for all of us, especially those who are sports people, those maybe who are struggling with problems with our skeleton, whether it is our joints, our bones, and so on. And also for people who are growing, young people who are still growing very rapidly, will need to incorporate this in their supplementation program, and in that way ensure that we have the material that is needed for growing as well as for laying down new tissues where they break down, whether as a result of the passage of time or as a result of sports and such activities. So multimineral alfalfa or CalMag also. Then the fourth one will be Full Motion, a very excellent supplement which specifically targets the building, the providing us with the nutrients we require to repair and rebuild cartilage. So we are aware, of course, that cartilage is that slippery material that is found covering the ends of our bones and coating many of our bones. It is slippery so as to enhance flexibility and the smooth movement of bones and joints within themselves. So Full Motion is going to help very much in this area because it will provide us with those nutrients that help to maintain and repair and rebuild the cartilage. Then we have vitamin C, and I usually add here or flavonoid complex because our flavonoid complex does contain some vitamin C, but these two supplements are very useful in the repairing and the making of the tissues that are involved in our joints. So for example, collagen is an important part of our tendons, our ligaments, and our cartilage. And the making of collagen requires the presence of vitamin C. So I know that some years ago, there was a great craze about collagen on the internet, but some of the things that we are not aware about is that collagen does not exist in isolation. It is part of other things going on in our bodies. So when our bodies are building collagen, it does need vitamin C. And that is why vitamin C and flavonoid complex play an important role in the maintaining and repairing and building of the tissues involved in our joints. Then the other one I wanted to mention was vitamin D. So vitamin D is another very important supplement. Again, if we are living in most of our continent of Africa, that we can get good sun exposure for most of the year. Of course, sometimes in the year and during certain weather, there might not be enough. But if we do notice for one reason or another that we do not get enough sun exposure, then we definitely do need to supplement with vitamin D, because vitamin D is a very, very important vitamin for our health. It plays a role in a broad spectrum of our bodily activities, everything from our immune system to our hormonal system, and again to the absorption of calcium. So calcium, as we know, is used in the building of bones, in the building of teeth, in our nervous system, and so on. And in order to absorb and utilize calcium correctly, we need adequate vitamin D. So if we know that maybe because we work in a building for long hours where we do not get sun exposure, then of course we should, or maybe if we are a dark-skinned person living in a temperate climate, you may need to supplement with vitamin D, because your dark skin could be protecting you from the sun that is available, and that way you will not be getting your skin will not be making as much vitamin D as it could if you are lighter skinned. Then the last supplement I want to mention here is magnesium. Magnesium complex is another very important supplement that plays in our health. And in this case, we are thinking about magnesium because it helps to ease muscle soreness and also to support good quality sleep, amongst other things. And we know that during good sleep is when our tissues are being repaired and rebuilt. So by using magnesium, we are going to enhance the quality of our sleep and also to ease the soreness in our muscles. So those are some of the supplements that I would recommend for our joint health. And as I said, you can check which ones particularly target the issue that you want to deal with. But in the case of things like Neolife Shake, omega-3 salmon oil, Calmag, and vitamin C, D, they are part of our regular supplementation. Then I see I've got maybe 1 minute left there, and I can touch on a question I had about osteoarthritis. So we know that we have two kinds of arthritis. So the one we are speaking about is not the rheumatoid one, is the bone arthritis, which is the result of wearing out of our cartilage. It can be as a result of aging, or as a result of certain types of medication that can be overused if we are taking them daily. And it can also be maybe as a result of injury or muscle imbalances. So osteoarthritis also comes as a result of repetitive use of a joint. Let us say you are a tennis player or a golf player, you may be using the same set of muscles and joints over and over again in your sport, and this can lead to arthritis in the joints that are involved. So for osteoarthritis, we recommend full motion. We also recommend Pro-Vitality and Calmag. If the budget is tight, then from the Pro-Vitality, we can at least take omega-3 salmon oil, and in addition to that, full motion and Calmag. So, so there, I think that with that question, the remainder of the questions will probably have a Q&A at the beginning of April. I just wanted to also give you a heads up that next Thursday is going to be the Easter week, which means that we shall not be having our regular training for that one day, because we shall be occupied in our Easter worship period. So for that reason, we shall not be able to be with you. But of course, the week after that, we shall be happy, God willing, to once again have our regular training session. So I want to thank you very much for having spent this time with us. And I hope that the session on joint health has been beneficial, and you'll find ways in which to incorporate some of this information into your base of knowledge, into the information you give to people you come across, and into the way that you go about building your business. Because as you know, in our business, our success relies on helping other people, whether in terms of improving their health or improving their financial situation. So thank you very much. Let me hand you over to Pascal, who is standing by to take you through the next session.
I don't take